Hi! Welcome back to Truth Fairy Tidbits. I am the Truth Fairy. I've been gone for about a week, so I know that you're just dying to get back into this book. So if you haven't been here before, go back to the beginning of my channel and start from there because you're not going to understand what's going on. We've already gone through one whole book and we're on our second book. And just to catch you up, I am spoon-feeding little bite-sized bits of information from some sources that helped me to deprogram my statist mindset. And these are things that if I were to just hand you this book and say, here, read this, it'll blow your head open. You're probably not going to, especially if you're still the statist mindset, because you do anything you can to resist any alternative information from what you already believe. So my hope in doing this is to just try to give you small bits of truth and logic, and hoping that something will stick in there and start to swirl around in your brain. Okay, so getting caught up. Back into this book, The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose. One of the very first books that, like I said, cracked my head open. So this book is all about the myth of authority and how government is illegitimate and all of those things. So the next section is called No Such Thing. No such thing as authority, really. So here we go. Welcome back. Most people believe that government is necessary, though they also acknowledge that authority often leads to corruption and abuse. They know that government can be insufficient, unfair, unreasonable, and oppressive, but they still believe that authority can be a force for good. What they fail to realize is that the problem is not that government produces inferior results or that authority is often abused. The problem is that the concept itself is utterly irrational and self-contradictory. It is nothing but a superstition, devoid of any logical or evidentiary support, which people hold as a result of constant cult-like indoctrination designed to hide the logical absurdity of the concept. It is not a matter of degree or how it is used. The truth is that authority does not and cannot exist at all, and failure to recognize that fact has led billions of people to believe things and do things that are horrendously destructive. There can be no such thing as good authority. In fact, there is no such thing as authority at all. As strange as that may sound, it can easily be proven. In short, government does not exist. It never has and it never will. The politicians are real. The soldiers and police who enforce the politicians are real. The buildings they inhabit are real. The weapons they wield are very real. But their supposed authority is not. And without that authority, without the right to do what they do, they are nothing but a gang of thugs. The term government implies legitimacy. It means the exercise of authority over a certain people or place. The way that people speak of those in power, calling their commands laws, referring to disobedience to them as crime, and so on, implies the right of government to rule and the corresponding obligation on the part of its subjects to obey. Without the right to rule, authority, there is no reason to call the entity government, and for all politicians and their mercenaries become utterly indistinguishable from a giant organized crime syndicate, and their laws are no more valid than the threats of muggers and carjackers. And that, in reality, is what every government is, an illegitimate gang of thugs, thieves, and murderers masquerading as a rightful ruling body. The reason the terms government and authority appear inside quotation marks throughout this book is because it's never a legitimate right to rule. So government and authority never actually exist. This book, to refer such terms to the people and gangs erroneously imagine to have a little side note. There's a lot of quotation marks in this book because every time the word government or authority is in this book, it's in quotes because it doesn't really exist. Okay, moving on. All mainstream political discussion, all debate about what should be legal and illegal, who should be put into power, what national policy should be, how government should handle various issues, all of it is utterly irrational and complete waste of time, as it is based upon the false premise that one person can have the right to rule another, that authority can even exist. The entire debate about how authority should be used and what government should do is exactly as useful as debating how Santa Claus should handle Christmas, but is infinitely more dangerous. On the bright side, removing that danger, the biggest threat to humanity has ever faced, in fact, does not require changing the fundamental nature of man or converting all hatred to love or performing any other drastic alteration to the state of the universe. Instead, it requires only that people recognize, then let go of one particular superstition, one irrational lie that almost everyone has been taught to believe. In one sense, most of the world's problems could be solved overnight if everyone did something akin to giving up their belief in Santa Claus. Any idea or proposed solution to a problem that depends upon the existence of government and that includes absolutely everything within the realm of politics is inherently invalid. To use an analogy, two people could engage in a useful rational discussion about whether nuclear power or hydroelectric dams are a better way to produce electricity for their town. But if someone suggested that the better option would be to generate electricity using magic pixie dust, his comments would be and should be dismissed as ridiculous, because real problems cannot be solved by mythical entities. Yet almost all modern discussion of societal problems is nothing but an argument about which type of magical pixie dust will save humanity. All political discussion rests upon the unquestioned but false assumption, which everyone takes on faith simply because they see and hear everyone else repeating the myth, the notion that there can be such a thing as a legitimate government. The problem with popular misconceptions is they are just that, popular. When any belief, even the most ridiculous, illogical belief, is held by most people, it will not feel unreasonable to the believers. Continuing in the belief will feel safe and easy, while questioning it will feel uncomfortable and very difficult, if not impossible. Even abundant evidence and of the horrendously destructive power of the myth of authority on a near incomprehensible. That's funny that's the word I couldn't get out of my mouth. Incomprehensible level and stretching back for thousands of years has not been enough to make more than a handful of people even begin to question the fundamental concept. And so, believing themselves to be enlightened and wise, human beings continue to stumble into one colossal disaster after another as a result of their inability to shake off the most dangerous superstition, the belief in authority. Okay, so we'll stop there. So, I think that's a pretty clear point being made. People's belief in authority, which I think the problem is people, like I didn't, understand what that even means. You don't understand that authority is not actually a real thing. Nobody has the right to rule over you. Even if you want them to, it still doesn't make it a right. Okay, so if one man, I don't have the right to kick your door in and steal your stuff and make you do anything I want you to do, in no way is it ever possible for it to become a right just because a handful of other people do it. Okay, we're going to kick that point down your throat many, many times. All of that, and you're going to disagree with it because it's just your belief system. Your mind is doing backflips right now, trying to justify how government is actually legitimate because we vote for it and all that shit. Which, if you go back and been through my other videos, I've made that very clear that just because a group of people vote for it, not understanding what they're even doing, it also doesn't make it legitimate. Okay, so we'll keep going through this book. I am happy to be back doing my videos. I've had a lot of thoughts in the last week, a lot of current events and things coming up, but I'm trying to just stick to what my plan is just going through these original base level sources of information, because my goal is to talk to those of you who still haven't completely broken out of your programmed mind. So I feel having this base level of understanding is necessary to build upon. You have to have a strong base, right? So, yeah, I'll just leave it there, and we might get off in the weeds eventually, but I kind of want to stick to my original plan. So anyway, glad to be back. Hope you're still hanging in there with me and continue watching, and like and share and follow all those things. I appreciate it. And as always, do not comply. Bye.